Our wedding anniversary falls on the same day as the Harvest Moon Festival. For 7 years without fail, Scarlett Miller and I would go to the old wishing tree to pray for our love. But today, she told me her mother was sick and she couldn't get away, asking me to go later. I couldn't bear to break a 7-year tradition, so I decided to go to the wishing tree alone, without telling her. However, after I finished praying and was about to tie our red ribbon to a branch, I heard Scarlett's voice. "Oh, Ethan, it's so good to have you." I turned around in disbelief. Scarlett was nestled in a man's arms, and together they were tying their own red ribbon to the ancient oak tree right in the center. The man planted an affectionate kiss on Scarlett's forehead and then whispered softly, "A lot better than that old man of yours, right?" Scarlett playfully tapped his chest. "Stop it. Of course you're better than him. He's old and fat, not young and handsome like you, Chapter 1. Standing just a short distance away, I heard those words, and a bitter taste filled my mouth. Nearing middle age, I had indeed put on some weight from the constant stress and hard work. But Scarlett used to say my paunch wasn't filled with fine dining, but with the weight of life's struggles. Now she was using it to flirt with another man. Scarlett and I were each other's first love. We'd known each other for a whole decade, ever since college. After graduation, Scarlett struggled to find a job and eventually decided to become a homemaker. But soon she complained that housework was too tiring, so I hired a full-time maid to take care of her every need. She said she worried about her parents, so I sent money to her family every month, right on schedule. She didn't want children, she loved her freedom. I agreed. All I needed was her. For 10 years I was responsible for earning, and Scarlett was responsible for spending. Even after the initial spark of our relationship had faded, I treated her with the same devotion as I did in the beginning. Our simple life was a happy one. Until 3 months ago, when Scarlett met a male sales associate at a luxury boutique. After that, she would casually bring him up in conversation all the time. She praised how young and energetic he was, how he could always cheer her up. At first I thought she was just friendly with the sales clerk, Ethan. But as time went on, her compliments became more and more audacious. She went from praising his social skills to his face, from his personality to his physique, and she would constantly compare me to him. Despite my repeated expressions of displeasure, she continued her behavior. I never imagined she would bring him here, to our wishing tree. A sour feeling churned in my stomach. Clutching the red ribbon in my hand, I strode toward them. Seeing me, Scarlett instinctively pushed the man beside her away. "Sincere, what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here? Shouldn't you know the answer to that?" "I should be the one asking you that question. Just last night, we had agreed to come to the wishing tree together. It was she who suddenly stood me up this morning, claiming her mother was ill." Realizing her lie had been exposed, Scarlett stammered, flustered, "No, it's not what you think. Let me explain. After I got my mom settled at the hospital, I was worried about you coming here alone, so I came to find you. I just ran into Ethan by chance." Her explanation was so flimsy only a fool would believe it. "Do you really think I'd fall for that?" "Scarlett, if you're going to lie, at least come up with a better excuse." At that moment, Ethan Hawthorne, the man standing beside her, pulled Scarlett behind him, adopting a defensive posture. "Who are you to slander Scarlett like that?" "Ethan, ignore him." Scarlett's face was filled with undisguised disgust for me. "If you have to make a scene, do it at home. Don't embarrass us in public." Chapter 2. I'm making a scene? I stared at her impatient face and suddenly felt a profound sense of weariness. "You're the one cheating, and you're accusing me of making a scene. Cheating. Sincere Sterling, don't you dare say that Ethan and I are just friends." I was tired of listening to her excuses. I threw the red ribbon in my hand into a nearby trash can and started walking briskly down the hill. Sincere Scarlett hurried after me, trying to explain, but I didn't slow down. When I reached the bottom of the hill, I went straight to my car. Scarlett caught up, pressing her hand against the door I was opening, panting. "Sincere, please listen to me. There's really nothing between us. We just came to the wishing tree to wish for a long friendship, wishing for friendship at a place for lovers." It was amazing she could even come up with such a pathetic excuse. I sneered. "Scarlett, do you even believe the words coming out of your own mouth?" Scarlett's face flushed crimson. Seeing that I didn't believe her, she pulled a red ribbon from her pocket and looked at me with a deeply affectionate expression. Don't be angry. It was my fault for coming here with another man today. I apologize. But I just wished on a ribbon for us. See? Seeing her trying to placate me, I couldn't help but want to laugh. One moment she's tying a ribbon with another man, and the next she's pulling out another one to appease me. I thought back to how she'd fabricated an excuse this morning just to go on a date with her lover, and the irony was suffocating. The red ribbon, once a symbol of our wish for an enduring love, had now become a tool for a guilt-ridden apology. It was meaningless. I took the ribbon from her and threw it on the ground, then gave her a cool glance. Let's get a divorce. Hearing the word divorce, Scarlett's appeasing expression vanished, replaced by irritation. Sincere Sterling, when did you become so petty? I already told you there's nothing between us. I'm just one of his VIP clients. You're almost 35. What are you getting so worked up about? Throwing a tantrum over something this small, is it really worth it? Worked up? Not worth it. It was the first time I'd ever heard someone so brazenly justify their cheating and then blame the victim. When I remained silent, Scarlett stared at me, her face a mask of fury. I've sacrificed so much for you, and now you suspect me over something so trivial. I gave up my career for you. Is this how you repay me? Hearing her words, I instinctively rubbed my forehead. Every time we argued, she used the same lines to condemn me, and every time, my heart would soften. We had both forgotten that she never became a homemaker out of love. We never lacked help around the house. It was all because she simply didn't want to work. Looking at Scarlett's sharp, dark expression, I suddenly felt exhausted. The woman I remembered was gentle and always smiling, reasonable and caring. When had she transformed into this person? Twisting words and turning right into wrong. Chapter 3. As soon as I got home, I called a friend who was a lawyer to consult about divorce proceedings and hired a private investigator to gather evidence of Scarlett's affair. The PI was incredibly efficient. It wasn't long before a long stream of messages arrived, filled with intimate photos of Scarlett and Ethan Hawthorne. It turned out they had been involved for quite some time. Scarlett had even used the supplementary card linked to my account to buy Ethan an apartment. I recalled a large transaction on that card a while back. I'd specifically asked her about it. Her excuse was that she was buying a sports car for her brother, who was studying abroad. I was a bit annoyed. I had money, but it couldn't be spent so recklessly. I was already funding her brother's entire education abroad. Buying him something as impractical as a sports car on my dime felt wrong. But Scarlett immediately burst into tears, using her usual "I sacrificed my career" speech to guilt-trip me. In the end, I had to let it go. How ironic. I had watched, completely unaware, as she used my money to buy a home for her lover. Looking at the mountain of evidence against Scarlett, a wave of nausea washed over me. I forwarded everything to my lawyer and asked him to draft a divorce agreement. By the time everything was handled, 3 days had passed. My phone was filled with notifications from Scarlett's social media, showing her and Ethan traveling and having fun. Seeing them still caused a slight pang in my chest, but it vanished quickly. I sent Scarlett a message. The divorce papers are ready. Come home and sign them when you have a moment. To my surprise, Scarlett rushed back almost immediately after receiving the message. What surprised me even more was that she brought Ethan with her. Sincere Sterling, are you done with this nonsense? It's just a stupid ribbon, isn't it? Here, take all of these. You can write anyone's name on them, as many as you want. She pulled a whole bundle of red ribbons from her bag and slammed them onto the table. Looking at the ribbons, once symbols of our hope for love, now the trigger for our breakup, I felt a mix of emotions. Ignoring the bundle, I gave Scarlett a cool look and slid the prepared divorce agreement across the table. Here's the agreement. See if there are any issues. Seeing that I wasn't bluffing, Scarlett finally panicked. Sincere, I admit I was wrong, but can't you be the bigger person? I've already apologized to you. What more do you want? You haven't even called me once these past few days. If it wasn't for Ethan keeping me company, I cut her off before she could finish. So, that's your excuse for cheating? Chapter 4. My words hung in the air. Scarlett froze, subconsciously tugging at the collar of her shirt, trying to hide the red marks on her neck. What are you talking about now? Seeing her defiant expression, I took a breath and spoke in an interrogating tone. Do you need me to show you the proof? With that, I pulled up the transaction record on my phone, showing she'd used my card to buy the sales clerk an apartment. Scarlett's face visibly paled with guilt, but she quickly hardened her expression. What kind of proof is that? So what if I bought him an apartment? Maybe I did it to get my hands on the latest handbag. Is that a crime? I knew some clients would give sales associates perks to get first dibs on new arrivals, but buying someone an entire apartment was a new one for me. Just as I was about to say more, Ethan, who had been watching from the sidelines, stepped forward and gently pulled Scarlett into his arms. "Scarlett, don't get worked up. Take care of yourself. Don't waste your anger on someone who isn't worth it." Under Ethan's comforting touch, Scarlett instantly became soft and pliant, looking up at his handsome, considerate face. Her resentment towards me intensified. "Look how caring Ethan is. He's young, handsome, and always has time for me." "And you," I scoffed. The reason most of my time was spent at work was to earn money for her to spend. She called me old, but wasn't she about the same age? It seemed all our years together were just a joke in her eyes. Ignoring Scarlett's theatrics, I pushed the divorce papers further across the table. "There's nothing left for us to talk about. Let's get a divorce." Scarlett froze for a moment, then her face darkened. With a loud crack, her palm struck my face. "You heartless bastard," I stood there, stunned, a burning pain spreading across my cheek. I, the one who was cheated on, was being called heartless and slapped. The world had turned upside down. After hitting me, Scarlett put on the act of a wronged victim. Ethan rushed to comfort her, taking the hand she'd slapped me with and blowing on it tenderly. "Does it hurt?" Scarlett looked at him, touched. "I'm fine," she smiled. Then Ethan turned to me with the expression one reserves for scum. "Enough is enough. How could you treat a wonderful girl like Scarlett this way? Just because you have a little money? What kind of happiness can you give her?" Fueled by Ethan's words, Scarlett's disgust for me grew. "Forget him. Let's go," she snapped. She shot me a venomous glare, then turned and stormed out with Ethan. Scarlett refused to sign the divorce papers, leaving me no choice but to have my lawyer initiate legal proceedings. Once everything was arranged, I returned to my usual work rhythm. One day, I took a business partner to a high-end restaurant for dinner and unexpectedly ran into Scarlett. She was dressed to the nines, and sitting opposite her was none other than that sales clerk, Ethan. Scarlett was spending lavishly, ordering a table full of expensive, limited-edition dishes. However, when she went to pay the bill, the manager informed her that her card was declined. "How is that possible? This is a black card. What kind of service is this?" The manager replied with an apologetic smile. "Ms. Miller, I'm afraid this card has indeed been frozen." Scarlett panicked. She took out her phone, about to call me, but then she happened to glance over and see me sitting at a nearby table. She immediately stormed over. When she saw the beautiful young woman sitting across from me, her expression soured. Well, sincere Sterling, so you're out having dinner with some tramp behind my back. No wonder you were in such a hurry to divorce me." It was to make way for this homewrecker. Wasn't it? Hearing her accusations, Victoria Ashworth, the woman sitting opposite me, frowned. "Who are you calling a tramp? Not every man and woman who have a meal together are sleeping together." But Scarlett wasn't listening. Instead, she became more agitated, looking ready to attack Victoria. She glanced at Victoria, then snatched the handbag Victoria had placed on the table and slammed it onto the floor. "This limited edition bag, my husband must have bought it for you. I'm going to smash it, you bitch. Don't deserve something like this," Scarlett screamed, stomping on the bag hysterically. I immediately stood up, grabbed her arm and threw her off. "Have you lost your mind? Do you really think everyone in the world is as shameless as you are? Being treated like this by me for the first time." Scarlett's eyes welled up with tears, and she began to sob uncontrollably. Just then, Ethan came over and shoved me hard. "What gives you the right to treat her like that? You didn't cherish her when you had her, and now you do this with that." Ethan helped Scarlett to her feet. Scarlett, completely infatuated, leaned into his embrace. They tried to leave, but the manager stopped them to settle the bill. In the end, Scarlett had to use her own bank card to pay the exorbitant fee. After they left, Victoria finally asked with a wry smile, "Is that your wife?" I nodded and sighed. "She's been cheating on me." Hearing this, an expression of understanding crossed Victoria's face. "Well, I was going to let the bag go, since it's normal for a wife to misunderstand. But now," I cut in with a smile, "make her pay. She and I are done." Chapter 5. When I brought Victoria Ashworth back to my house after dinner, Scarlett was already there. Seeing Victoria with me, Scarlett's face immediately darkened. "You dare bring this homewrecker to our home?" she shrieked, lunging at Victoria. But I stepped in her way. "That's enough. Ms. Ashworth is here today to discuss compensation with you." At the mention of compensation, Scarlett froze on the spot. She tried to play dumb. "What compensation?" It's like this, Ms. Miller, Victoria said calmly. The bag you destroyed at the restaurant today, including its purchase quota value, is worth about $1.5 million. But out of respect for Mr. Sterling, you only need to compensate me for the original price, which is $750,000. Scarlett shot Victoria a hateful glare. You used my husband's money to buy that bag, and now you want me to pay for it? No way. Unfazed by the false accusation, Victoria replied coolly. I have no relationship with your husband. We were just discussing a business partnership today. You can verify that anytime you like. Regardless, you must pay for the bag. Otherwise, you can expect to hear from my lawyer. At her words, a flicker of panic crossed Scarlett's face. She probably hadn't expected that Victoria and I really weren't involved. Honey, Scarlett said, her face flushing as she turned to me for help. But I immediately averted my gaze and spoke in a cold tone. Sorry, I won't be covering this debt, because we are already divorced. Hearing the word divorced, Scarlett's face filled with alarm. I never agreed, so the divorce isn't valid. I almost laughed at her audacity. It doesn't matter if you agree. I had my lawyer finalize the proceedings long ago. What you did today has nothing to do with me. At this, Scarlett began to tremble. Her eyes red, she turned to Victoria. I'm sorry, I didn't know you and my husband weren't involved, but Victoria was in no mood to listen to her explanations. She had a deep-seated hatred for cheaters. Her own ex-husband had an affair, which led to their divorce. She felt a strong sense of empathy for my situation. My apologies, but I'm all business. I came here today simply to remind you to pay up. And don't say I'm heartless. I'll give you 1 month. You should start getting the money together. After saying her piece, Victoria gave me a nod and left. Once she was gone, Scarlett burst into tears and tried to embrace me, but I stepped away. Honey, how could you not help me pay? I only did it because I care about you so much. Care about me. Sometimes I really wondered how Scarlett could be so shameless. I looked at her coldly, my voice flat. From this day on, we have nothing to do with each other. I'll be taking you to court for adultery, and you can expect to leave this marriage with nothing. With that, I threw her out of the house. Chapter 6. The court date for my divorce from Scarlett arrived quickly. On the day of the hearing, she brought Ethan Hawthorne with her. They held hands, looking every bit the loving couple. What surprised me was that her parents, Harold and Brenda Miller, had come as well. Seeing me waiting at the entrance, her mother, Brenda, started shouting without any regard for the passers-by. You shameless piece of trash, our Scarlett has been with you for so many years, and now you want a divorce over some trivial matter. You'd better compensate our family, so that was it. Her sudden concern for her daughter was just another attempt to squeeze more money out of me. How disgusting. When I ignored her, Brenda raised her hand to slap me. I dodged to the side, and her own momentum sent her tumbling to the ground. Help, he's hitting me. A son-in-law is beating his mother-in-law. Oh, the pain, she wailed. As a crowd gathered, many people started filming with their phones. Scarlett just stood to the side, a smirk on her face, letting her mother continue the spectacle. I didn't want to be part of their circus. I stepped forward. It's true Scarlett was with me for 7 years, but your family has taken plenty from me during that time. I have a clear conscience about how I treated her. Out of a final shred of decency for Scarlett, I didn't expose her affair in the middle of the street. To get her mother to stop, I issued one last warning. Letting Scarlett leave with nothing is the limit of my tolerance. If you keep causing trouble, I won't hesitate to sue to reclaim everything I've given your family over the years. Perhaps my tone finally got through to her, because Brenda Miller didn't cause any more trouble during the proceedings. Since Scarlett was clearly at fault, her histrionics were useless. The court quickly ruled in my favor, granting the divorce and leaving her with no assets. As we walked out of the courthouse, Scarlett looked at me with an air of arrogance. I finally escaped my misery. From now on, I'm going to bravely pursue the life I've always wanted. Her words struck me as deeply ironic. In the 10 years we'd known each other, I had never treated her poorly. Although I was busy with work, I always did my best to spend time with her. I gave her everything she wanted, even canceling countless business meetings just to accompany her to a craft class. I remembered one time I was on a business trip overseas. Scarlett caught a cold and called me, saying she missed me. It was already midnight, and there were no flights back. Without a second thought, I chartered a private jet and flew home through the night, sparing no expense just to be with her, and in return for all that devotion, all she could say was that she had escaped her misery. I let out a self-deprecating laugh. Perhaps she was just a trial I had to endure. I looked at her calmly. And what kind of life is it that you want? Scarlett smiled, tightening her grip on Ethan's hand. I want excitement and constant companionship, things an old man like you could never give me with that. She and Ethan walked away. Ethan even glanced back, giving me a smug, victorious smirk. Watching them go, a faint smile touched my lips. Scarlett still didn't understand. The entire life she enjoyed was built on my wealth. Now that we were divorced and I had cut her off, the love she imagined she had found would likely prove to be incredibly fragile. Chapter 7. After the divorce from Scarlett was finalized, my business began to thrive, and through our continued collaboration, Victoria Ashworth and I grew closer. One day, while Victoria and I were discussing a project in my office, Scarlett burst in unannounced. My assistant followed her, flustered. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling, I couldn't stop her." I waved a hand, dismissing my assistant. "On what grounds did you cut off my brother's living expenses?" Scarlett demanded. Her question jogged my memory. When we divorced, I had canceled the bank card that funded her brother's studies abroad. It had been a while, and I had almost forgotten about it. "On what grounds?" I chuckled. "On the grounds that you and I have nothing to do with each other anymore." Scarlett let out a bitter, self-mocking laugh and collapsed onto the floor. "You're so cruel to me." I truly couldn't understand her thought process. She was the one who dumped me, claiming she could live a better life on her own. Now that things weren't going her way, she came back begging, crying about how cruel I was. All I had done was take back what was rightfully mine. I looked at her and sneered. "Me cruel? If I were truly cruel, you wouldn't just be broke. You'd be in debt." Scarlett froze, tears welling in her eyes. "Please," she cried, "even if you can't forgive me, please, just continue supporting my brother until he graduates. If he can't finish college because of me, my parents will kill me." She looked up at me tentatively, testing my reaction, then continued, "You know how they are. They favor my brother. If they find out you cut him off because of our divorce, they'll beat me to death." Victoria, who had been standing by, couldn't take it anymore. "You have some nerve," she cut in. "You were the one who cheated. Now that you're divorced, you still have the audacity to ask Sincere for money." Victoria's words made Scarlett realize she wasn't alone. She composed herself slightly, a hint of her old arrogance returning. "What business is it of yours, you outsider? Sincere has always loved me. This has nothing to do with you." Victoria remained calm, a faint smile on her lips. "You're right, it's not my business. I just can't stand to watch. If Sincere weren't wealthy, you probably wouldn't even be here, would you?" Victoria's words effortlessly exposed Scarlett's dark motivations, and Scarlett snapped. "You bitch!" She lunged at Victoria, pushing her hard. I instantly grabbed Scarlett's arm and slapped her across the face. Enough the sharp sound of the slap echoed in the quiet office. Scarlett stood frozen, her eyes red with disbelief. You hit me? For this woman?" I stared at her coldly. "Who do you think you are? Don't get ahead of yourself. I stopped loving you a long time ago." My words struck Scarlett like a death blow. Her eyes filled with hatred as she glared at me. "Fine, Sincere Sterling. You forced me to do this Chapter 8. At first, I didn't understand what Scarlett meant. I figured it was just an empty threat born of resentment. But 3 days later, on the grand opening day of my new company, a mob of protesters showed up. At the same time, the video of her mother screaming at me outside the courthouse suddenly went viral online. The video was cleverly edited to show only the first half her mother's accusations and my stoic silence. The part where I confronted them was completely cut out, making me look like the villain. I knew instantly that someone was deliberately trying to ruin me. It was obvious who. Sure enough, that afternoon, Scarlett arrived at my company with Ethan. She clung to his arm affectionately. Though she was 10 years older than him, she had maintained her looks well, and they could have passed for a young couple. Seeing them together now, I felt nothing. No pain, no jealousy. I suppose when you've been disappointed enough, you just become numb. Scarlett smiled as she watched me struggling to deal with the protesters. "Sincere Sterling, did you really think I cared about your pathetic money? Let me tell you, I've saved up plenty for myself over the years. I can live just as well without you," Ethan chimed in. "Exactly. What's so great about being rich? Look at you now, running around like a dog on our leash." They were clearly here to gloat. I let out a cold laugh, took out my phone, and started a live stream. "So, they wanted to play the public opinion game? Fine, so could I." I pointed the camera at Scarlett and Ethan. "Everyone take a look. It hasn't even been 3 days since our divorce, and my ex-wife is here with her new man, laughing at me. I've only just realized they were together before we even divorced, and now her parents are trying to spin the story and claim I was the one at fault. People love drama. The number of viewers in the live stream started climbing rapidly. Scarlett's triumphant expression froze. When she realized what was happening, she snapped, "You're lying. You have no proof." I smirked. That was exactly what I was waiting for. I pulled open a drawer and took out a thick stack of photos. There were pictures of Scarlett and Ethan being intimate at the wishing tree, screenshots of posts she'd forgotten to hide from me on social media, and even the more explicit photos the private investigator had found. One by one, I held them up to the camera for everyone to see. With irrefutable proof, the tide of public opinion turned in an instant. Scarlett stared at the photos in disbelief, then grabbed Ethan and fled in humiliation. Watching them scurry away, I scoffed. What goes around comes around. If she hadn't tried to destroy me, I would have preferred to let our 7-year marriage end with some dignity. Now they were utterly disgraced, and as for me, my company ironically gained a bit of fame from the incident. People started coming by just to see the place, and slowly, more and more clients came looking for my services. It was a blessing in disguise. Chapter 9. I saw Scarlett again 3 months later. She appeared unexpectedly at my doorstep. She was dressed in thin clothing, as if she'd left in a hurry, and her eyes were red and swollen. I had never seen her look so wretched. The moment she saw me, Scarlett tried to rush forward and grab my hands, but I recoiled in disgust. "Sincere, please, you have to help me. Ethan Hawthorne is a scammer." It turned out that after our divorce, Ethan realized Scarlett didn't have much of her own savings. Her wealth had been entirely dependent on me. He had initially pursued her because she was a lavish spender at the luxury boutique, buying things by the cartload. After they got together, she bought him an apartment, which only further convinced him that he had landed a sugar mama. However, after the divorce, the court had awarded that apartment back to me. The only reason Ethan stayed with Scarlett was to get his hands on her remaining savings. When she let her guard down, he transferred her last few $100,000 into his own account and vanished without a trace. Scarlett looked at me, her face a mask of agony, but my expression remained impassive, devoid of any sympathy. "And what does that have to do with me?" My words seemed to shatter her. Her voice was hoarse as she pleaded. "I'm so sorry. I was blind before. I see now that you were the one who truly loved me all along." I found myself wanting to laugh. The money Scarlett had lost, while less than 1% of my net worth, was still more than enough for an ordinary person to live comfortably. But she had chosen to squander it and had lost it all through her own foolishness. "Sincere, please, you have to help me. My mother said if I can't come up with $100,000, she is going to marry me off to some backwoods hick to get dowry money for my brother." I glanced at her, my expression unwavering. "So? What does your life or death have to do with me?" Scarlett froze, stunned by my absolute coldness. I continued, "Don't you get it? You only feel pity for someone you love. And I stopped loving you a long time ago." Chapter 10. After that incident, Scarlett finally seemed to leave me alone. I immersed myself completely in my work. But the peace didn't last long. Soon she started appearing near my company and my home. I knew exactly what she was up to. It was the same method she'd used when she first pursued me. Victoria called it the boiling a frog strategy. I scoffed. Who even believes that old myth anymore? "Experiments show that once the water gets hot enough, the frog will jump out on its own," I said. "Besides, for the frog to get boiled, it has to be willing to get in the pot in the first place." As my collaboration with Victoria deepened, we eventually decided to merge our companies. These days I was busy with recruitment, paying no mind to Scarlett's stalking. I just focused on my work, until the day our HR department received a resume from Ethan Hawthorne. Seeing the words community college diploma on his resume, HR rejected it without a second thought. The HR manager even came to me puzzled. "Isn't it strange, boss? The job posting clearly stated we're only looking for graduates from top-tier universities or exceptionally talented individuals. Does he really think he's one in a million? He doesn't even have basic proficiency certificates, and he's requesting an interview with the CEO?" Glancing at the utterly unremarkable resume, I smiled. We should give young people a chance. If he thinks he's exceptionally talented, tell him to come in for an interview this afternoon. I'd like to see this talent for myself. When the interview began, Ethan was stunned to see me. Bro, I know we had some misunderstandings, but that was all Scarlett's fault for seducing me. I was always the top salesman at the boutique. Trust me, bro, I can do this job. He called me bro as if we were family, but I wasn't buying it. I conducted the interview by the book, and he couldn't answer a single question properly. I dismissed him without ceremony. He was furious and tried to argue, but one look from me and the security guards escorted him out. As he was being thrown out, he ran into Scarlett, who had been lingering nearby. "Ethan Hawthorne? It's you give me back my money, Scarlett, baby. I've missed you so much," Ethan cooed, immediately switching to a wounded expression as he rushed towards her. "Let me explain. I had my reasons for leaving." Seeing Scarlett's furious approach, Ethan put on a pitiful act. But Scarlett, nervously glancing in my direction, shoved him away and slapped him hard, twice. "I must have been blind to fall for a good-for-nothing loser like you. You're not even fit to touch my ex-husband's shoe." The slap seemed to enrage Ethan. "You crazy old hag," he roared back. "You were the one who came on to me. Who are you trying to fool now? If it wasn't for your money, you think I would have wasted my time on you? Every time I had to touch you, it made my skin crawl." A crowd quickly gathered, pointing and whispering. Amidst the accusations, Scarlett grew more and more agitated. "You bastard, I'll kill you," she screamed. With a final roar of fury, she lunged forward. A steak knife snatched from a nearby cafe table plunged into Ethan's chest. Blood poured from the wound. By the time the ambulance arrived, Ethan Hawthorne was dead, and Scarlett Miller, surrounded by onlookers, was led away by the police. Chapter 11. It was the Harvest Moon Festival once again. After a long day at work, on a strange impulse, I asked Victoria to join me at the old wishing tree. The moment the words left my mouth, I wanted to crawl into a hole. To my surprise, she agreed. By the time we arrived, a light rain had begun to fall. I held an umbrella over us, recounting the events of last year with a wry humor. Victoria listened, smiling and responding to every detail. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and a brand new red ribbon somehow ended up in my hand. I looked at Victoria, then rubbed my nose sheepishly. "So, I heard this place isn't just for couples. You can also wish for long-lasting friendship. Want to give it a try?" Victoria let out a soft laugh. "And which idiot told you that you come to a lover's wishing tree to wish for friendship?" My ruse exposed, I just smiled awkwardly, but then Victoria surprised me. "Well, are we going to tie that ribbon or not?" After we hung our ribbon, we wandered around for a while longer. As the rain grew heavier, we had to retreat to the car. As I was about to drive down the hill, a hunched figure appeared before me. It was Scarlett. She was kneeling beneath the ancient oak tree, letting the rain soak her to the bone. She was crying, desperately searching for the ribbon we had hung together so long ago. She couldn't find it. Instead, she found the one she had tied with Ethan. With a gut-wrenching sob, Scarlett yanked the ribbon off the branch and threw it in the trash. "Bastard animal, you ruined my life." Finally, she stumbled to her feet, took another ribbon, and wrote my name on it. After hanging this new ribbon, she collapsed to her knees. "Please," she wept, her voice breaking. "Please, bring my old love back to me." Just then a bolt of lightning split the sky. The wind and rain intensified, tearing the newly hung ribbon from the tree and whisking it away into the darkness. Watching the ribbon she had just placed disappear in the blink of an eye, Scarlett completely broke down. She fell to the ground, crying uncontrollably, a helpless wail for a love she could never get back. In the car, Victoria, sitting in the passenger seat, began to tease me. "Well, your ex-wife is certainly persistent. You're not still holding on to some fantasy about her, are you?" Her playful, sarcastic tone made me laugh. Our 7 years of marriage were a long time, it's true, but I let go of her long ago. Otherwise I wouldn't have divorced her, and I certainly wouldn't be sitting here watching her misery without feeling a thing. I paused, then pretended to sniff the air dramatically before turning to look at her. "Is it just me, or do I smell something sour in here?" Victoria rolled her eyes at me. "Sour? What's there to be sour about? Who would be so childish as to get jealous?" Her reaction was adorable. I reached out and gently stroked her hair. "You would, my girlfriend."